All right, here's Brandon again, Brother B, as commonly known. Just coming again live to you from the front end of my car, my Toyota Camry 2007 four-cylinder LE. It's a 2007 Camry LE four-cylinder. And what's happening is the temperature on my gauge is running hot. No matter what I did, at first I found that there was a busted gasket at my thermostat. And let me show you where that is, okay? The thermostat is right in this housing right here. I don't know if you can see that, but right there in the housing, right here, inside this thing here, there was a gasket. Let me see if I can turn it around. Nope, my camera won't let me do that, okay? But nonetheless, it's in that black housing right there. And what the gasket that was surrounding the thermostat had popped. Of course, all of my my coolant ran down on the ground, unfortunately. But so I got home, replaced the gasket. The gasket was approximately about $3 at $3-4 at AutoZone. So we got that situated and drove it for a little while, and it still got hot. Okay. And it got hot several times, so I would have to let the car cool, drive a little bit, let the car cool, drive a little bit, let the car cool, until I got it home. And I found out when I realized as I was driving that it's the water pump. So now that's what I'm challenging everybody to do now, is to get to the water pump. Now, the water pump is very simple. It's at O'Reilly's about $39-40, but this is the water pump right here. And what it is basically those 4 screws right there, and the 6 screws on this flange right here. And that's the big part. It's a 10mm screw, and you have to get to very tight spaces. But you have 6 screws on the outside, of course, this 4 here. Now, you will have to work with your tensioner, but you'll have to take this part of the water pump off, that 4mm screw. These are 12mm, and you have 4 of those. It's right at the serpentine belt. That's right on the side, right near the alternator. So you have to take those off. You'll have to clamp this wheel, this pulley here, with some vice grips or something, just to hold it, so you can break the 12mm screws apart, and then you take those off, and you'll be able to get to the 2 screws that are kind of hidden by this deal here. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like. And of course I can't get down in here with my camera, but as close as I can, this is it here. These are the screws. Of course you have to take the alternator off, and when you take the alternator off, you'll get to this part here, and that's the water pump. So I got to these 4 screws here very easily. And of course, there's some more here in the background that I had to take this deal off just to get those screws. So it's only 2 of those screws. And once I get that off, of course, you got to put a new gasket on with the new water pump. And of course, make everything tight. Just a couple of foot-pounds, you know, just tight enough not to leak. And you'll put it back on, let it watch it. Fill it up with water first. And then you can always drain it at the drain plug of your radiator. Be just easier that way. You don't lose a lot of money and fluid if it's something wrong in your antifreeze, because that stuff's $10-15, you know. So you want to do that with water. Let it run for a few minutes. If you see no leaks, then of course go to your radiator. There's a plug down at the very bottom of it. I can't see it right here. Yeah, but it's a plug down there. You can drain it out and just let it flow out, just the water. You clean your system, run the water hose through it, let it flow out a little bit more, and you'll be fine. So I'm gonna put this back together, show you what it's gonna look like. It's gonna look like normal, but I'll show you here in just a second. Hey, this is Brother Brandon again. Of course, this is the second part of the video. I took for granted that you may know what the tensioner is in order to get the belt away from the the alternator. Okay, of course you have to take the alternator off, and of course the alternator sits about right here, about right here. And of course I can't see where my hands are because the video doesn't really let me because of my camera here. Okay, but it sits about right here. Now if you come around to here on this side, I don't know if you can see this or not, but right here, that's your tensioner. I don't know if you can see that or not. I believe you can, but that's the tensioner. You'll actually have to have this place put down, pushed down this way. Just put a rod right through there and push this down, then you can take your belts off and you'll be able to get there. Now, I also made another assumption that when you pull everything off, you're going to need a deep socket for those last two bolts that I was telling you about on the back side of the water pump. You had to take that pulley off, those 12 millimeter bolts. Well, when you take those off, there are two other screws in the very back that you really can't get to. You have to use a 10 millimeter deep socket to be able to get those two screws. Once you pull those off, of course, it's going to look like this. Okay, this is the old water pump. Now, of course, there was no leaks. There were no leaks, and I went ahead and scraped off the gasket to see if I can find anything that's wrong with it. Of course, visually, I can't see anything wrong with this thing. But of course, just like any mechanical part, obviously it wasn't working, or something was going on that's causing it to fail and overheat. So it's a little $40 part right here, blow up a, $7,000 motor. Well, it's not really smart. So it's best to just go ahead and change it out and err on the side of caution. So what you want to do is you want to scrape this gasket off. Okay, this gasket right here, you're going to make sure that gasket is on there and all those little holes line up right about here. Make sure each one of those line up. Put your gasket on there. Of course, scrape very carefully when you're scraping the side of the motor at the water pump housing area, because if you damage that, of course, you get nicks and dings in the aluminum, and of course that aluminum then will drop these droplets of water there, and of course it does you no good. So you want to carefully scrape off the old gasket, wipe it with a clean towel, and just to make sure that the surface is pretty clear for you to put the new gasket on and the new water pump. Also, you can put some anti-seize on your bolts before you tighten them up. That's just to give you some looseness there if you have to take it apart again a little later on. Sometimes the water, does a little something to these bolts. They rust together, stick together, and they're hard to break. So you just err on the side of caution. Anti-seize is usually about $3-4. The little small packets from AutoZone or Advance or O'Reilly's or Napa, wherever you go to the auto parts store, they can give you some anti-seize. Okay, so I'm going to put this thing back together. Make sure everything is connected the way it should do it, the way it should go rather, and then of course I'll test it. I'll show you what it looks like when the new one's on. The new one's is here, and that baby is nice and shiny. Ooh, I love Christmas parts. Of course, I'm not a mechanic, but I like doing this stuff. I'm great at puzzles, so I figured, well, shoot, if I can put a puzzle together when I was like 4 years old, and putting 1,000 pieces of puzzles together, I can pretty much figure it out once I look at it. And some things that I don't know, hey, I'll just look at it on YouTube. Find people like myself that has gone through the headache of putting this stuff out there, and shoot, go with what they were saying. So I'm going to put this baby back on, turn it back on, put everything taut, screw everything together, put the belts back on, put the tensioner on. Oh, by the way, it's a good idea that since you're taking off the water pump, to go ahead and change your serpentine belt. That's the belt that goes around all those little parts over there. It's a good idea because they wear out. And of course, you can test your tensioner, that little thing that I pointed out as well. You might want to test that and see what kind of spring action you get on there. If it's pretty loose, you might want to go ahead and change that too while you got everything apart. Not a really big deal when you're doing it now, but you might want to think about that. You over 100,000, 150,000 miles. Of course, mine is like 211, I think 211,000. I bought it at 111,000, so I haven't really had to do anything really but change out the fluids, the oil, you know, the spark plugs. I really haven't had to do a lot of maintenance to this car. So, and of course, that last time that I told you about the crankshaft sensor, that was basically it. And a new alternator. I mean, nothing really major on this car. The air filters and all that good stuff. Yeah, all that comes. But for major maintenance, really haven't had to do anything because you stay up on top of it. So, this is Brandon, you know, sending you another video. Of course, I don't know how to connect all these, but it'll be in 2 parts, so you'll be able to see the second part. And then, of course, I'll come back on a little later to show you what it looks like when it's all together. Okay, there's a couple of things that I didn't mention that I will mention now when you take this off. Now, if you look at, I'm assuming that you can see this deal right here. Let me see. This deal right here. That's your cable clip that goes to your alternator. You want to go ahead and put that back on. Also, when you get this deal here back on, just go ahead and wipe everything down. Make sure there's no grooves or old oil or anything like that on those little pieces right there. Also, you want to inspect your belt. Okay? You want to inspect your serpentine belt. Now, of course, mine look pretty good, so I'm gonna take the new one back. This one hadn't been on there that long, and the grooves are still in good condition. There are no scratches or no dings in it. You know, still looks pretty good. You know, and of course, you know, there are no cracks or tears on the back or on the sides. So this belt's pretty good. So I'm gonna put this one back on and take my money back. Take it back and get my money back. But nonetheless, you want to do that just to make sure that while you're in there, you want to go ahead and take care of everything as much as possible, so that way you don't have to go back. So I'm going to go ahead and put this together, put the belt on there, adjust the temperature, the tensioner, because it was very strong as well. My spring was spring real well, so nothing is out of the ordinary. Of course, you're probably saying, Brother B, why don't you clean your engine? Man, you have oil everywhere. Yep, I haven't gotten to the point of where I wanted to change the valve cover gasket just yet. Yeah, I'm just being lazy. That's all it is. I'm just being lazy. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not a mechanic and I don't have a whole lot of time. But nonetheless, it's still in good condition, so I don't have to worry about it. I just use a little bit of oil and just check it, and that way I don't have it all smoking everywhere and coming all on my engine. So that's all I got for right now. Just stay tuned for other videos. See you later. Thanks for subscribing and joining my my channel. This is something that I've tried, quite new to me, but I actually enjoy it. So send me a link, or what do you call that thing, a comment down in the bottom and let me know what you think about my videos, and tell me what kind of videos you like to see coming up. I have basically four vehicles. I have a 2000 F-150. I have a 2007 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder LE. I have a 2008 Dodge Grand Caravan, which I've shown you some of those, and I have a 2002 Dodge Grand Caravan, which I'm not going to do a whole lot more to. But nonetheless, it's still a vehicle that can run. So just to give you the heads up, it'll be for sale here if you want to buy it. Only thing wrong with it now is just emissions issue, and it's probably one of the container, the canisters, or either hose. I'm not really going to put anything into it, but nonetheless, it's still a vehicle I can work on and have fun with. All right, this is Brother Brandon saying we'll see you later, and I'll probably put some home remedies as well on the video here pretty soon. Also, check out my website at www.begholston.com. Alrighty.